My phone buzzed on the hospital tray beside me. Still groggy from surgery and pain meds, I reached for it, expecting a message from my sister or my doctor. Instead, I saw, "Your employment has been terminated effective immediately. Your access credentials have been revoked. Personal items will be shipped to your address on file." No greeting. No acknowledgement that I was recovering from emergency surgery. Just cold, automated finality. I'm Daisy Emerson. Until 3 seconds ago, I was Director of Strategic Development at Elevate Solutions, a company I'd kept afloat for 8 years by rebuilding client trust, designing their service model and salvaging millions in contracts. And now I was reading my firing notice with a drainage tube still taped to my side. Across the room, a voice broke the silence. That sounded like bad news. I turned to see the man in the next bed, sharp-eyed, too alert for post-op. "I just got fired. While lying here." He raised an eyebrow. "That's cold, even by corporate standards." I showed him the message. He read it, then his expression changed. Not pity. Recognition. Elevate Solutions. Samuel Whitfield's outfit. "How do you know Samuel?" A slight smile. "I'm Jameson Reed, CEO of Forge Innovations." The name hit like a second crash. Forge, the rival Samuel feared most. "For what it's worth," Jameson said, "this is a massive mistake." "How would you know?" "Because every analysis of Elevate pointed back to one person holding it together. The name that kept coming up." He met my eyes. "Yours." For the first time since the accident, my pain sharpened into purpose. Samuel hadn't just fired me, he'd handed me gift-wrapped to his biggest competitor. "How are you feeling?" Jameson asked. "Truly." I stared at the message. Angry. And done being loyal to people who never deserved it. A slow smile. "Good. Then this conversation is happening at exactly the right time." The next morning, sunlight striped the hospital floor. My body ached, but my mind was clear. Jameson was already up, tablet in hand. "Your mind's working overtime." "Good. Means you haven't given up." "Giving up would hurt less." "It always does. That's why most people choose it." He set the tablet aside. "How much revenue did you manage at Elevate?" 12 major accounts. 20 smaller ones. About $78 million a year. "And those clients, did they trust Elevate, or you?" I didn't need to think. "They trusted me." Jameson nodded. "Then Samuel didn't just fire an employee. He severed the main artery keeping his company alive." He leaned forward. "Forge has spent 3 years trying to break into Elevate's client base. We had the tech, the strategy, but not the trust. You do." My pulse quickened. "If you walked through our doors," he said, "you wouldn't be starting over. You'd be leading from a place of real influence, not artificial ceilings." The words landed. Terrifying, liberating, impossible. "Jameson," I whispered, "Samuel will come after me. He'll claim breach of contract, violation of non-compete agreements. He'll drag me through legal hell." His expression didn't change. "He fired you without cause while you were hospitalized. Courts don't enforce non-competes under those circumstances, and Samuel Whitfield has always been better at making threats than following through on them." I almost smiled because he was right. Samuel was all bluster and carefully constructed intimidation, but when challenged directly, he usually backed down. A nurse entered then, checking our vitals and adjusting medication levels, breaking the intensity of the moment. When she left, Jameson spoke again, his voice quieter. "Daisy, you're standing at a threshold that doesn't open twice. Most people never get this opportunity. The question is whether you're ready to walk through it." I looked at the message on my phone one more time. At the years of dedication reduced to corporate efficiency. At the loyalty I'd given to people who had discarded me the moment I became inconvenient. Then I looked at Jameson, at the opportunity he was offering, not out of pity, but because he recognized value that Samuel had been too blind to see. "I think," I said slowly, "I'm ready to stop waiting for permission to build something better." A genuine smile crossed Jameson's face. "Then let's start planning." 2 days later, when I was finally discharged, the winter air outside felt sharp and clarifying, like it was stripping away the last remnants of shock clinging to my thoughts. My abdomen ached with every step, but my mind felt more focused than it had in years. Jameson had been released the morning before, leaving me with a brief note written on the back of a hospital information sheet. Momentum fades faster than pain. Don't wait until you're completely healed to decide who you want to become. I kept that note folded in my jacket pocket as my sister drove me home, talking nervously about rest and recovery and taking time to process everything. But my thoughts kept circling back to Elevate, to Samuel, to the message that had cut my loyalty in half. When we reached my apartment, I noticed a small package wedged between the door and the frame. My name was written across it in precise handwriting. Inside was a business card embossed with Forge Innovations' distinctive logo in deep blue, and a handwritten line beneath. Call when you're ready. No pressure. Just possibility. I stood in my doorway for a long moment, thumb tracing the raised lettering on the card. I thought about Elevate's sterile hallways, about Samuel's dismissive tone during strategy meetings, about how invisible I'd let myself become while carrying the weight of everyone else's ambitions. And I thought about the clients who had trusted me, not because of company branding or marketing promises, but because I had earned their confidence through consistent delivery and genuine care. That night, unable to sleep despite my body's desperate need for rest, I opened my laptop. My injuries protested, but my mind refused to be still. I pulled up every piece of public information I could find about Elevate Solutions over the past 5 years. Quarterly reports, press releases, financial disclosures, industry analyses. I wasn't looking for ammunition. I was looking for truth. And what I found was exactly what I'd suspected but never allowed myself to fully acknowledge. Revenue instability masked by creative accounting. Client turnover increasing steadily each quarter. New hires placed strategically around Samuel's inner circle rather than in positions where the company actually needed expertise. Operational inefficiencies papered over with aggressive marketing campaigns. Elevate wasn't thriving. It was barely surviving, held together by momentum and a few key relationships. And Samuel had just fired the person maintaining the most critical of those relationships. The next morning, with coffee growing cold beside me, I picked up my phone and dialed the number from the business card. My heart hammered harder than it had during the accident. 1 ring. 2 rings. Forge Innovations, this is Lauren speaking. I cleared my throat. This is Daisy Emerson. Jameson Reed told me to call. A brief pause, then her tone shifted to something warmer and more purposeful. He's been expecting you. Can you come in tomorrow afternoon? My abdomen throbbed. My head felt heavy. But something deeper, something fierce and long dormant rose to the surface. Yes, I said. I'll be there. As I hung up, I realized this wasn't about revenge. It never had been. This was about reclamation. About taking back the professional identity Samuel had tried to erase with a single cold message. Observant viewers might notice something unusual about this moment. What about you? Can you see where this is heading? Tuesday arrived with the kind of crisp morning that makes everything feel sharper and more real. Each step from the car to the entrance of Forge Innovations headquarters sent uncomfortable reminders through my healing body, but I refused to let physical pain slow the momentum building inside me. The building rose before me, all clean lines and modern architecture, the kind of design that spoke with quiet confidence rather than desperate compensation. It was nothing like Elevate's aging structure, which always felt one budget cut away from literal collapse. Inside, the lobby hummed with focused energy. Not the frantic scrambling I'd grown accustomed to at Elevate, but steady, purposeful movement. People who understood their roles and executed them with precision. A woman with kind eyes and a navy suit approached immediately. Daisy? I'm Lauren. Jameson's ready for you. Her tone carried reassurance without condescension, and I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. She guided me through corridors lined with glass-walled conference rooms where teams collaborated without the undertone of panic that had permeated every meeting at Elevate. When we reached the corner office, Lauren knocked once. Come in, Jameson's voice called. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows when I entered, hands in his pockets, the city sprawling behind him like evidence of possibility. When he turned, the CEO persona softened slightly, and I saw the same man who'd understood my worst moment without judgment. Daisy, he said warmly. I hoped you'd say yes. I wasn't sure I'd make it, I admitted. My body has strong opinions about sudden movements. Sit please. He gestured to a chair facing his desk. Healing takes time. Opportunity doesn't. As I sat carefully, he slid a slim folder across the desk toward me. Inside were documents, not contracts yet, but frameworks. Organizational charts showing a new division. Strategic plans outlining integration approaches. Vision statements describing innovation and autonomy. This, he said, is what I believe you can build here. I stared at the pages. These weren't job responsibilities listed out like prison sentences. These were blueprints for leadership, for creative authority, for building something meaningful. You developed all of this from one hospital conversation? I asked. I developed this from 8 years of watching your reputation in the industry, he corrected. Elevate talked endlessly about loyalty and team values. What they never understood was that your clients didn't stay because of company loyalty. They stayed because of their loyalty to you personally. The words landed deeper than I expected, touching something I'd never fully acknowledged. He sat down across from me, his expression serious but not severe. I'm not offering you this position out of sympathy, Daisy. I'm offering it because Forge has a gap that only someone with your specific expertise and relationships can fill. You're not a charity case. You're a strategic acquisition. My breath steadied. My pulse calmed for the first time since the accident. This feels like something I'm choosing, I said quietly, not something I'm surviving. That's exactly the difference, Jameson replied. And I think it's time you experienced what that feels like. In that office, overlooking the city where I'd spent years building someone else's dream, something inside me finally aligned. A sense of returning to myself after being lost for far too long. Let's do this, I said. Jameson's smile was genuine. Welcome to Forge, Daisy. Let's build something remarkable. For the next 3 days I followed my doctor's orders to rest, but my mind refused to cooperate. Every time I tried to relax, my thoughts returned to the folder Jameson had shown me. Not the organizational charts or revenue projections, those were familiar territory. But the quiet promise woven through every page. Build something that belongs to you. By Thursday evening, I was able to move around my apartment without gripping furniture for support. The pain was still present, constant and insistent, but so was the momentum pulling me forward like gravity. So I did something I'd been avoiding since the hospital. I opened my email. The inbox was chaos. Hundreds of unread messages, dozens from clients, and then the name I'd been expecting but dreading. Samuel Whitfield. Subject line. Clarification required client communication protocol. I clicked it open with a steady hand. It has been brought to my attention that several clients have attempted direct contact with you. You are reminded that your employment with Elevate Solutions has been terminated. Any further client communication may constitute breach of confidentiality agreements. Please direct all inquiries to your replacement. My jaw tightened. No acknowledgement of the circumstances of my firing. No recognition of basic human decency. Just threats wrapped in corporate language. I didn't respond. Instead, I scrolled further and found another email, this one from Cascade Systems, a major account I'd personally saved during a critical infrastructure failure 2 years ago. Daisy, we heard about your medical leave and subsequent transition from Elevate. Could you confirm your current status? We'd prefer not to make changes to our account structure without speaking with you directly. My pulse flickered. Not with fear, with understanding. Even now, even after Samuel's termination notice, clients were seeking me out. They weren't accepting the transition quietly. They were asking for me specifically. I closed the laptop and exhaled slowly. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't forgotten. And I certainly wasn't replaceable. The next morning I met Jameson again, this time in a smaller strategy room with digital whiteboards covering 2 walls. He handed me a cup of herbal tea as I entered. You look stronger, he observed. I feel clearer, I replied. Good, because we need to discuss something time-sensitive. He pulled up a file on one of the screens. Elevate is making moves. Fast ones. They've reassigned your entire portfolio to someone named Elliot Crawford. I blinked. Elliot Crawford is Samuel's cousin. He barely understands basic client management, let alone complex strategic relationships. Exactly, Jameson said. And clients are noticing. We've received 6 inquiries in the past 2 days, all from companies in your former portfolio, all asking if you're available for consultation. I sank into a chair, processing the implications. This is going to get messy. It already is, Jameson replied. But here's the thing, Daisy. You're at the center of this whether you want to be or not. The question is how you want to position yourself. I met his gaze, finding clarity in the directness. I don't want revenge, I said. I want to move forward with integrity. Then that's exactly what we'll do, Jameson said. But understand that moving forward with integrity doesn't mean staying silent while someone else controls your narrative. In that moment, with the hum of Forge's operations vibrating faintly through the walls, I knew Elevate was no longer my concern. My future was already unfolding somewhere else. This is a passage that only careful observers can truly understand. What do you see happening here? By Friday morning, tension surrounding Elevate Solutions had begun leaking into the industry like a slow but steady gas leak. I felt it in every message that arrived, not dramatic or panicked, just careful and curious. Clients had instincts that preceded public knowledge. They sensed instability long before quarterly reports made it official. When I arrived at Forge's offices for our scheduled meeting, I noticed a different energy in the building. Not chaotic but alert. Focused. Something was shifting beneath the surface. Jameson was already in the strategy room when I entered, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up. He looked like someone preparing for an operation, not a discussion. We received 4 more inquiries this morning, he said before I'd even sat down. All from clients asking specifically about your availability. My breath caught. 4. He nodded, sliding his tablet toward me. On the screen was an internal memo from Elevate, forwarded anonymously to Forge's general inbox. Confidential, internal only. Effective immediately, all client inquiries regarding operations or strategic services must be redirected to Interim Director Elliot Crawford. Do not reference personnel changes unless specifically required. All external communications require executive approval. Samuel's cousin as interim director. The writing on the wall couldn't have been clearer. There's more, Jameson said quietly. Forge was contacted by an industry compliance coordinator this morning. Routine check-in, but they asked whether we anticipated sudden client migrations. Apparently, whispers are circulating that Elevate is restructuring aggressively. A hollow feeling spread through my chest. I'd spent 8 years stabilizing that division, building relationships, creating systems that worked. One impulsive decision from Samuel had begun unraveling everything. This is spiraling, I whispered. It is, Jameson agreed. And you're at the center whether that's comfortable or not. He leaned back, studying me like he was measuring whether I fully grasped the scope of what was unfolding. Daisy, if these clients migrate, it won't just be a business transition. It will expose everything Samuel's been hiding. And eventually, Elevate's board won't be able to ignore it. My pulse thudded painfully against my still healing injuries. I didn't want this. I know, he said simply. But wanting doesn't determine where responsibility lands. You didn't ask for leverage, but you have it now. Silence settled between us, heavy but strangely clarifying. I had spent years earning trust. Elevate was unraveling because that trust had been mismanaged and taken for granted. And Forge was offering a path forward built on transparency instead of fear. Finally, Jameson spoke again. Are you ready to talk about next steps? I exhaled slowly, feeling the decision crystallize. Yes, I said. It's time. Don't judge what's happening too quickly. The biggest twist is still coming. That weekend, my apartment felt too quiet for the storm gathering outside. Emails arrived in steady intervals, each one another signal that Elevate's carefully maintained facade was cracking. Some came from former colleagues, written in vague, cautious language that suggested they knew their communications were being monitored. But the ones that mattered came from clients themselves. We've been reassigned to someone we haven't worked with before. Can you clarify your current professional status? Our project timeline has been disrupted. Are you consulting independently now? We need to understand the transition plan. Preferably with your input. I read each message twice, feeling their weight settle like stones in my chest. These weren't opportunistic inquiries. These were warnings from people who sensed something wrong and were reaching out to the one person they trusted. Sunday afternoon, I met Jameson at a quiet cafe near Forge's campus. He arrived alone, without assistants or devices, just a single folder and an expression that told me he already knew most of what I was about to share. You've seen the messages, he said as we sat down. I nodded. They're not asking about Elevate. They're asking about me. Which is why our response needs to be precise, Jameson replied, setting the folder between us. Clients reaching out is significant, but responding too quickly could give Samuel ammunition. Ignoring them sends the wrong message entirely. So what do you suggest? I asked. He opened the folder, revealing communication templates, legal protocols, transition frameworks. Everything structured, careful, deliberate. We create clarity, he said. No promises we can't keep. No contracts before proper procedures. Just a straightforward public update that you're evaluating new professional opportunities and will share more information soon. Then we wait. I stared at the documents. Elevate will panic. That's the intention, he replied calmly. Panic reveals truth. A chill moved down my spine, not from fear but from recognition. Jameson wasn't orchestrating revenge. He was creating structure and stability. But Elevate's own instability would expose itself. That evening, one more email arrived, this one from Brightwell Manufacturing, one of the oldest accounts in my portfolio. Daisy, we were informed that your health condition prevents further professional engagement. Please confirm if this is accurate. We prefer not to transition unless absolutely necessary. My fingers tightened around my phone. Samuel wasn't just replacing me. He was actively rewriting the narrative to make my absence seem inevitable and permanent. Sickness. Incapacity. Silence. A convenient story that absolved him of responsibility. Monday morning, I walked into Forge's lobby with a decision already solidified inside me. This isn't about choosing sides anymore, I told Jameson when he met me in the conference room. No, he agreed. It's about choosing your voice. And for the first time since the hospital, I felt ready to use it. By Tuesday morning, the industry current had shifted from quiet whispers to a low, steady rumble. I could feel it in the elevator ride to Forge's offices, in the subtle looks exchanged between employees, in the careful way people greeted me. Something significant was building. Jameson met me outside the strategy room, tablet in hand. Elevate issued a statement an hour ago, he said, leading me inside. My stomach tightened. About me. He slid the tablet across the table. The announcement was brief, professionally vague, and deeply misleading. Due to unforeseen personal circumstances, our Strategic Development Division will undergo temporary restructuring. All client inquiries should be directed to Interim Director Elliot Crawford. We appreciate your patience during this transition. No mention of my termination. No acknowledgement of anything specific. Just corporate obfuscation designed to control the narrative. They're pretending nothing happened, I murmured. Because admitting it means admitting their mistake, Jameson said. I leaned back carefully, mindful of my still tender injuries. Part of me wanted to believe this would resolve quietly, that I could take the high road and let events unfold naturally. Then Jameson opened another file. Daisy, you need to see this. Forwarded emails from someone inside Elevate. Anonymous. Untraceable. But revealing. Team members scrambling to respond to client questions without proper information. Confusion about authorization protocols for system changes. Requests piling up unanswered in Elliot's inbox. Senior staff questioning why they weren't informed of my departure. And then one line that made my blood run cold. If clients insist on speaking with her, inform them she is medically unable to continue professional obligations and is unavailable for future projects indefinitely. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the sheer calculated cruelty of it. They're framing you as incapacitated, Jameson said quietly. They want to close the door before anyone realizes you didn't close it yourself. That's not incompetence, I whispered. That's deliberate sabotage. He nodded slowly. Which means you need to take control of your own narrative. Publicly. I pressed my palms flat against the table, steadying myself despite the anger rising like a wave. I had spent years pulling Elevate out of crises Samuel himself had created. Years stabilizing broken processes and damaged relationships. And this lie was their response. What should I say? I asked. The truth, Jameson replied. Not an attack. Not an accusation. Just clarity. Clients need to know you're not bedridden or silenced. They need to know you're standing here, making conscious choices about your next steps. I inhaled deeply, feeling the pull across my healing injuries. For the first time, the decision didn't frighten me. Because this wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about reclaiming the professional identity Samuel had tried to erase with lies and cowardice. I looked up at Jameson, resolve forming clearly in my chest. Then let's tell them. By Wednesday morning, my public statement was ready. Simple, professional, honest. After completing medical treatment following a serious accident, I am evaluating new professional opportunities. I remain committed to supporting organizations that prioritize integrity, transparency, and genuine partnership. I will share more details as decisions are finalized. No attacks. No drama. Just truth. Forge's communications director, a sharp woman named Catherine, reviewed the statement twice before nodding approvingly. This tone will make Elevate nervous, she said. Which is exactly appropriate. Jameson stood beside her, watching my reaction more than the words themselves. You don't have to post this today, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. I do. Minutes later, the statement went live on my professional profile. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Notifications exploded across my phone. Likes, comments, private messages, direct emails from clients, from industry contacts, from people inside Elevate itself. It was like opening a floodgate. The first email came from Cascade Systems. We're relieved to hear you're recovering. We suspected Elevate wasn't providing accurate information. Please let us know where you land professionally. We'll follow. Then from Brightwell Manufacturing. We paused all new requests until we could confirm your status. Your integrity has always been clear. We look forward to continuing our partnership wherever you go. And then a third message that made my breath catch. I'm sorry this happened to you. This wasn't right. Sent anonymously from an Elevate internal address. I stared at that last message for a long time. Someone inside was watching everything unfold. Someone who knew Samuel's narrative was built on deception. By noon, the situation had escalated further. Catherine rushed into the conference room where Jameson and I were reviewing transition protocols. You both need to see this, she said, voice tight. She placed a printed report on the table. A summary of Elevate's quarterly investor call, leaked less than an hour after it concluded. There, in black and white corporate language, was the truth they'd tried to hide. Client retention risk elevated. Operational continuity concerns unresolved. Leadership stability under internal review. And beneath those lines, a phrase that struck deeper than anything else. Key personnel departure continues to impact multiple strategic accounts. Jameson met my eyes across the report. That key personnel is you. Heavy silence settled between us, vibrating with the weight of everything Elevate was trying to conceal and failing to control. This isn't a crack, he said quietly. This is the beginning of structural collapse. My chest tightened, not with fear but with recognition. Elevate hadn't simply lost me as an employee. They had lost the foundational thread holding their entire operations network together. And Samuel was running out of places to hide the truth. I closed the report, my decision settling like steel in my core. Jameson, I said steadily, if Elevate is falling apart, we need to be ready for what comes next. He nodded once, the hint of a smile crossing his face. We will be. That evening, as city lights flickered across Forge's windows, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. They're collapsing internally. You should see this. Another message followed immediately. Screenshots from Elevate's internal audit channel. Unauthorized system modifications under Elliott's credentials. Client retention data deliberately altered in quarterly reports. Samuel's increasingly desperate directives scattered across midnight timestamps, growing more unhinged with each passing hour. This wasn't mismanagement anymore. It was a quiet implosion happening in real time. I forwarded everything to Jameson. He called within seconds. Elevate's board is meeting right now, he said. Someone leaked the audit results directly to them. This is the inflection point. My chest tightened. They'll try to blame me. They'll try, he agreed. Because it's easier than admitting the truth. The moment you left, everything they'd been hiding started surfacing. Minutes later, more messages arrived. From someone I recognized, a colleague who'd worked under me for 4 years. Samuel just stormed out of the board meeting. Security took his access badge. Complete chaos here. Another message seconds later. Elliott resigned. They're bringing in external consultants. It's over. I sank back against my couch, not triumphant, just finally free of the crushing weight I'd carried since that cold termination message in the hospital. Jameson arrived at my apartment 20 minutes later, calmer now, as if he'd already processed what this ending meant for both of us. "You didn't cause their collapse, Daisy," he said quietly. "Samuel did. You simply stopped holding the broken pieces together for him." I looked out my window at the city lights, bright and steady, impossibly open with possibility. For the first time in 8 years, the future didn't feel like fighting for survival. It felt like genuine opportunity. I took a slow breath, ribs still aching but spirit steady. "Then this," I said quietly, "is my clean break." Jameson nodded. "And your new beginning." 3 weeks later, I walked into Forge Innovations as their new vice president of strategic partnerships. Not as a refugee from a failed company, but as a leader with a mandate to build something meaningful. The clients followed, not all at once but steadily. Cascade Systems transitioned their entire contract within the first week. Brightwell Manufacturing followed shortly after. By the end of the month, 6 of my former accounts had formally moved to Forge, bringing nearly $40 million in annual revenue with them. But what surprised me most wasn't the business migration. It was the people. Former Elevate employees began reaching out, quietly at first, asking about opportunities at Forge. Talented analysts and project managers who'd been suffocated under Samuel's leadership, suddenly seeing a path forward. Jameson had been right. I wasn't starting over. I was building from a foundation of established trust and proven capability. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after my first day at Forge, I sat in my new office, reviewing proposals for expanding our service delivery model. The space was bright, filled with natural light, nothing like the cramped workspace I'd occupied at Elevate. A knock came at my door. Catherine entered carrying a folder. "You'll want to see this," she said, setting it on my desk. "Elevate Solutions just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection." I opened the folder slowly. The filing documents painted a stark picture. Massive client losses, operational failures, leadership instability, and mounting legal challenges from investors who claimed they'd been misled about the company's financial health. Samuel Whitfield's name appeared repeatedly throughout the documents, always in the context of decisions that had accelerated the company's decline. "How do you feel?" Catherine asked gently. I considered the question carefully. Sad actually. There were good people there who deserved better leadership. "You tried to give them that," she pointed out. "I tried," I agreed. "But one person can't save an organization that's determined to destroy itself." Jameson appeared in my doorway then, having overheard the last part of our conversation. "No," he said, "but one person can choose to build something better somewhere else. Which is exactly what you're doing." Catherine excused herself, leaving Jameson and me alone. "I got another message today," I said. "From someone at Elevate, asking about roles here." "How do you want to handle it?" he asked. I thought about the culture we were building. Transparent, respectful, rooted in real excellence. If they're talented and align with what we're creating, why wouldn't we interview them? Jameson smiled. "That's exactly the answer I hoped you'd give." 2 months later, on a rainy Thursday, reception called. "Daisy, Samuel Whitfield's here. No appointment, but he says it's important. Send him up." I didn't need backup. I'd moved past needing Samuel's validation. He entered looking hollow, weight lost, eyes shadowed. The swagger was gone. "Thank you for seeing me," he said. "I have 15 minutes. He sat heavily. "I owe you an apology. Firing you in the hospital was unconscionable. I was scared, and I destroyed everything." He paused. "I never saw you as the foundation. When I removed you, it all collapsed. Why are you here, Samuel? To say you were right. About everything." I was too arrogant to listen. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "But I'm not sure what you expect me to do with it." "Nothing," he replied. "I just needed you to know I understand. Too late, but I do." Rain tapped the windows. "What now?" I asked. "Rebuild," he said, almost laughing. "Figure out who I am when I'm not pretending." I felt unexpected compassion. "I hope you find your way. You deserved this," he said before leaving. "I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you." Jameson appeared moments later. He came to apologize. "Surreal. Necessary, for both of us. You're more generous than most." "Not generous. Just finished. I have better things to build." 6 months in, I spoke at an industry conference on integrity and client relationships. Afterward, a young woman approached. I left my toxic job because of your story, she said. Started my own practice. Terrifying, but mine. Jameson handed me a glass of wine. You're becoming an inspiration. That wasn't the goal. The best inspiration never is. It's just living authentically. He asked if I ever regretted the chaos. I regret needing a crisis to change, I said. But not where it led. This is where I was meant to be. Forge is better because of you, he said. Revenue's up 40%, but more than that, trust is real. To doing it right, he toasted. To building something worth believing in, I replied. 8 months later, an email arrived from Elevate Solutions Recovery Team. Helena Wright, restructuring consultant. May we explore strategic collaboration between Forge and the restructured Elevate? I forwarded it to Jameson. Thoughts? He appeared 10 minutes later. Interesting. My instinct? Elevate still has talent and clients, just bad leadership. If they're serious about change, it's worth exploring. Even after everything? Especially after everything. Resentment only limits your own potential. He grinned. Set up the meeting. 2 weeks later, Helena and Elevate's new team sat across from us. Samuel was gone. We made catastrophic mistakes, Helena said plainly. Now we're rebuilding on ethics and excellence. Why partner with us? Jameson asked. She looked at me. Because you understood Elevate's potential, and collaboration beats endless competition. What's the proposal? I asked. A true partnership. Forge keeps full independence. We'd co-develop in select markets, share tech, align client services. You bring relationship expertise. We bring infrastructure. It was smarter than I expected. No merger, just synergy. Jameson and I exchanged a glance. We'll need full proposals, he said. Understood, she replied. I leaned in. One non-negotiable. Name it. Complete transparency about what caused Elevate's collapse. No sanitizing, no omissions. Real accountability, I said. Helena didn't hesitate. Agreed. We've already started that work internally. External transparency is the next step. The meeting wrapped an hour later. Helena shook both our hands. Thank you for considering this. I know it's complicated. Complicated doesn't mean impossible, I replied. Sometimes the most meaningful progress comes from working through complexity. After they left, Jameson and I lingered in the conference room. Well, he said, I didn't see that coming. Neither did I admitted. But maybe that's the point. Growth happens where we least expect it. Are you seriously considering this? I thought of the hospital bed, the fear, the rebuild. I spent 8 years trying to make Elevate what it wasn't ready to be. Maybe now, with real leadership and real change, it can become what it always could have been. And if it fails again? Then we'll have learned something. But if it succeeds, we'll have rebuilt something important. Isn't that worth the risk? Jameson smiled. You're not afraid to be hopeful, even after everything. Hope isn't ignorance, I said. It's choosing to believe in possibility because of what you've been through. Exactly 1 year after the accident, I stood backstage at that same hospital, about to speak at a seminar on workplace ethics. My scars had faded but remained, quiet proof of survival. Jameson texted, good luck. That you don't need it. You've got this. On stage, I spotted Samuel in the third row. We exchanged a nod, not of victory but of quiet recognition. I spoke about dignity in decision-making. Every organization makes hard calls. The question is whether they remember there are human beings on the other side. Strip away that humanity, and you erode the trust that holds everything together. During Q&A, someone asked about redemption. There must be room for it, I said, glancing at Samuel. But real redemption means acknowledging harm, understanding why it happened, and changing the system, not just the words. Afterward, Samuel approached. Thank you for not making me the villain. You weren't, I said. You made terrible choices under pressure. That's different. He told me he was consulting now, helping others avoid his mistakes. The industry needs people who've learned from failure, I said. That night, alone with tea and city lights, I reflected. The worst moments don't define you, your response does. Loyalty should be mutual, not one-sided. Opportunities often wear the disguise of disaster. Revenge drains you, reclamation empowers you. And sometimes former enemies become unexpected allies, not because you forget but because you believe people can grow. Most of all, I learned I was capable of far more than I'd let myself be at Elevate. At Forge, I wasn't just valued, I was free to build something true. A message came in from a former colleague now at Forge. You showed me what's possible when you refused to accept mediocrity. I typed back, you did the hard part. I just held the door open. And I realized, the real victory wasn't my success. It was creating space for others to find theirs. Leadership isn't about authority. It's about lighting the way for those who can't yet see the path. 1 year ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, discarded. Now I was living proof. Endings are often just beginnings in disguise. Sometimes, you need everything to fall apart to realize you were settling for less than you deserved all along.